Hello! Welcome to Norm Merrick's show. Host Rob Noor. My wife's probably mad because my door's open as I'm streaming here. I'm up, my office is upstairs, but it's really hot, so I got a fan blowing in. I'm trying to think of a solution to get like an air conditioner or something in here that necessarily won't make too much noise that picks up on the mic. I already have this squeaky high pitched voice, and I'm terrible when it comes to sort of setting up audio. So the last thing I need is like the windows like almost within arm's reach over here. It's just blowing into the mic. So we're trying to come up with creative solutions so that I don't stroke out and have a heart attack here streaming. One thing I'm doing is trying to get more in shape. So my back has been killing me as of late because of the slight changes in my previous work environment there. Doing a lot of physical stuff in hospitals, ER rooms, etc. Not to get into too much detail. My back's been hurting even more. So it's been sort of a nightmare. So, yeah, that's what I was looking at, Jack of Trades, the split unit. So that might be what we go with. It might be quiet enough. And then I could also run it like an hour before I come up with the door closed. And then if I have to shut it off for the time I'm streaming, it'll at least be more tolerable, I think. So, but that's the idea. Yeah, that's what I was going to say, Mr. Name. I've actually lost a reasonable amount of weight. I've been eating much healthier, but I haven't been exercising. And I was doing decent before I hurt my back like over a year ago there. I was doing the DDP yoga stuff on a daily basis. I feel weak too because I'm lifting less because of my back. So when I am using my arms, I just feel much weaker than I was before. So something's got to happen. I got to get in shape. So anyways, the last thing that probably 20% of you want to see is me to like stroke out on here because I'm yelling at some lefty and it's too hot up here. Though the other 80% of you, it's like a NASCAR race. You're watching for the crash out. So it may come. It may. We'll see what's up. But should be a good show tonight. Now, I'll be honest. I prepared most of my sort of opening summary tonight. Last night, a couple things have changed. Though not many, but we'll get to it. But I still think that my summary will basically, from last night, the things I wanted to talk about will still apply here this evening. There's so much to talk about. Sometimes I feel like I'm retreading ground because I'm doing politics, and a lot of times things don't change politically when it comes to the stories that we're like very focused on. Like I feel like I could talk about the pandemic every single day till the end of time, and it still wouldn't do it justice how corrupt that entire thing was and how no one's been held account. Same is true with sort of the lawfare against Trump, the assassinations against Trump, and a litany of other things. I don't know if people are interested, but spoiler alert for the show tonight, we're going to talk about left-wing insurrections again. So if you're a lefty and you want to call in and discuss why when the Democrats attack an ICE facility and meet all the criteria that all the Democrats I debated said were necessitated to be an insurrection, why it's okay when Democrats do it. So we're going to talk a little about that tonight, but there's so much to talk about. This story with Jake Tapper's book getting more airtime where all of a sudden it's like, oh my goodness, we were duped, which is funny because all the Democrats I debated recently were like, there was no cover-up. There's no cover-up of Joe Biden's health. Now we have prominent media members in the Democrats, like probably a third of them are like, oh my goodness, we were duped. What did Joe Biden do? Now we're being told, remember when we were all talking about sort of, wow, it looks like he could barely walk. Wow, he's got like orthopedic shoes on or something. Oh, those were cheap fakes. Those were conspiracy theories. We're not doctors. That's what they told us. Turns out we were right. Isn't that odd how that works? The conspiracy theorists tend to be right more often than not when it comes to those sort of political things. Of course, that'll be clipped out of context and people will be like, Rob's saying flat earth. I'm not yet, but I'm on the way to being a flat earther. Before we get started here, I do want to say that I'm still doing a couple changes to the channel. For now, I think 10 p.m. Eastern is when I'm going to try to stream. I am transitioning, so I just want to grift here for a minute. Please help me with my transition. It's very difficult. So much of society is designed to prevent people like me from transitioning. It's very hard. You meet people, they want to refer to you in the old sense, and they don't understand the transition. And so please, please, please help me with that. I know that my audience understands just how difficult it is to transition and that it's very expensive. And it's scary. It really is. So please, please, please Get those super chats in. I'm having fun with these new banner system. I'm such a boomer. This little thing amazes me. It's like, wow, I could type things and it'll show up on the screen. Wow. Transition's going to be expensive. Also, if you want to donate to me in a way that'll get you less publicity, because unfortunately I can't see it as the stream's going on, but that I'll get a higher percentage of, you could donate to my PayPal at Robert Knorr at PayPal. Or a good friend of the show, River, reached out to me and told me she was on this site, Buy Me a Coffee. It's basically Patreon, except it seems less antithetical to my political beliefs, and it allows me to keep 95% of all donations there, which is a very good number. I will have other platforms that I'm working with in the near future that you could donate to. I also finally today completed getting my P.O. box, which is nice because sometimes people send me things. I've had people send me hats. I had people send me an American flag. I've had people send me books. I would like to not give out my home address as much as possible. I already have people that are sending me threats and stuff like that. So that's sort of the, gist of that. So please help me in these difficult times of my transition. So let me get my notebook ready here. My ask me about my pronouns notebook as I transition. Oh, speaking of transitions, I actually will be debating gender trans issues this Friday on Sarah Raging Tomatoes show against that Mel person whose avatar is a fox. I don't know. I don't like the prompt. I feel like I'm giving a lot of way because the prompt is gender different than sex? Technically, if you want to go with the social construct and how people use the term, it is, but I'll argue the negative side of it. I don't care. So that's the gist of it. I'm transitioning. I am. And I could really use your money in the help to doing so. Other thing is, I am trying to get more professional as I'm going to be live streaming. So any input that you all give me is welcomed. You can go to my Discord. If you need a link to that Discord, I could probably give you that right now in the chat. I need to figure out, like, theoretically, I'm supposed to have a Discord link that never changes, but for some reason it always does. So anyways, here's the Discord link to join now. Let me put that in a banner. Wow, I could do that as I'm streaming. Wow. This technology. Amazing. There you go. Join my Discord. And any suggestions there will be welcome. You can also direct message me on X until I get like huge. I still try to respond to almost every direct message. I'm getting better at it. So now that I'm not working 90, 100 hours a week. So if you have any suggestions for the channel, things like that, let me know. Trying to stream at 10 p.m. Eastern time every night. One caveat, because I'm not fully transitioned yet out of my previous job, there may be Mondays and Tuesday nights where I'm unable to stream. Weekends are still going to be up in the air, but I will be streaming every Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday unless I let you know beforehand. So 10 p.m. seems to work best for me right now because I don't want to stream too early in the day. And then because my son's going to have baseball games that are going till about 8, then we'll get back from the game and I'll help him get cleaned up and like try to get him. 10 o'clock's a good time because usually I then get to talk to him as he's going to bed and then come up here and stream, which is nice. Also, it doesn't overlap on when a lot of other people are doing debates. So if I'm watching Andrew Wilson, who is, do a debate or something like that, I'll be able to watch that and then come up and stream. So I think it's a good time. That's sort of the idea. One other thing that people have recommended was the shortening of the intro, which I hope that you all appreciate that I tried to shorten it. Don't worry, I have people that are actually professionals that are going to make me a nice 10 to 15 second intro instead of my just little image. We'll get that done. And with Super Chats. So the deal with Super Chats is I had a lot of people tell me, especially my editor, Black Elk, that if I read Super Chats as they come in, like it really messes up the flow of the show. And so instead, what I'll do is get through the point that I'm talking about, then read the Super Chats, then start another point, get through that, then read the Super Chats. So don't worry. If you're sending Super Chats to help me through this difficult time in my life where I'm transitioning, I will get to them. I will get to those Super Chats. And remember, you can also send to PayPal and to buy me a coffee. And I get what you could do and buy me a coffee is just like Patreon. You could become like a subscriber and send me money every month. What you should do is whatever your job is, just allocate, we'll say, I don't want to be greedy, 30% of the money you make from that job, and then put that into sending me every month that money. That way I could splurge your money on irrelevant stuff that doesn't help anyone except me have a good time. For example, now that I have a bad boy 54-inch Magnum zero-turn mower, the next purchase that I need for that mower is a bagger to keep my yard looking nice and smooth without all the grass laying around. So that's sort of the plan. Do you guys want me to read super chats? Let's do it before I get into the opening, right? Let's do that. Robert Whaley for $10 says, air conditioner fund grift. Thank you so much. Keep Rob from stroking out being too hot fund. Robert Whaley always looking out for me. Thanks so much, Robert. Corey Barton for $2 says, feeling hot. Try big soda, new Nor energy. We got to get some big soda emojis. I think that it's worthwhile. Today I'm on a little energy drink here late at night. There's a big brain move. Celsius sparkling water, 0 sugar. I enjoy these Celsius, but they do make me feel effeminate, so apologies for that. Jets Gerald, always incredibly generous. Thank you so much. Don't worry, Gerald. We won't tell Andrew you're donating to me. $10 says, Robert's right. We need to get Nor some AC. Thank you. Robert Whaley, another 5 gifted memberships. Thank you so much. Always incredibly generous. Thomas O'Brien, $20 says, this will help you identify as someone with air conditioning. Thank you so much. All my life. I'll tell you that here's the 2 things I've always put as the benchmark for my life for when I know that I financially have made it. The first is tenable. And I always thought that once you own a gazebo, you're big time, man. That's it. If you got a gazebo in your yard, like people who drive by are like, damn, this guy's got it going. So that's step 1. The other thing is, if I was ridiculously rich, like if I'm making like 6-7 figures a year, I want to be so absurdly wealthy that I never have to wear a pair of socks twice. I'll just go to Walmart and buy a new pack every time. In fact, maybe I'll only wear 1 pair out of a pack. I'll still buy 12 packs, but I'm just going to wear 1 pack and then 1 pair and throw them away. Never re-wearing. That's the type of money that I want to have in life. Lost Avarice, thanks so much. Was just chatting with you over on the Discord there. It's great to hear from you. Thanks for being a member. Hopefully I won't disappoint. 16-pound ham. Nice. For $10. Thanks. Rob is doing the Lord's work. He alone bushwhacks his way through every single leftist precept that make arguing with them a futile endeavor. Happy for making the jump. Stay ninja. Thank you. I appreciate it. Critical Lens for $10 says, hey, Rob, was wondering, why was it okay for Andrew to not give a definition of insurrection in the Destiny debate, but it was bad that Pearl didn't give prescriptions? They seem similar. It's a fair question. I don't think they are similar, though, because they're 2 different things. In the discussion that Andrew and Pearl having, they're talking about problems they see with men and then potential solutions. In the Andrew debate with Destiny, no one's talking about potential solutions, right? What they're talking about is defining the problem. Both Andrew and Pearl are basically agreeing majoritarily with the problem that they're identifying. There's a problem with sort of secularism, women being promiscuous, marriage out of wedlock, STDs, all of the things that they talked about. That conversation was interesting because there wasn't a lot of disagreement or even discussion about those problems. The discussion had to do, well, what do we do about it? Pearl's was like, I'm not giving any prescription. And Andrew's like, well, here's what I would do about it. The debate with Destiny is a debate on, was January 6th an insurrection? How do you define insurrection? Destiny's like, here's my definition. And Andrew's argument is, that's fine. If you're going to define insurrection that broadly, I could concede that definition. It's just that meets everything, or it meets so much. In fact, that would meet 3 hippies that shove a cop that are protesting weed laws, which Destiny concedes. So it's absolutely a viable and fair strategy to say, your definition sucks. That's not a discussion about what solutions are. And by the way, it's fair for someone to say, I don't have a solution. I don't know what the solution is. It's just a fair pushback that, okay, well, if you don't have a solution, maybe we should prefer my solution. If Andrew's solution, for example, would have been like, therefore we should, castrate every man. That's my solution. It would have been entirely reasonable for Pearl to say, that sounds horrific. There's a lot wrong with that. That sounds way worse than the status quo. But the problem was Pearl's like, well, I'm not endorsing the status quo, and I'm not giving any prescription. I just think that your solution won't work. Lost Avarice, thank you so much for another $50. Incredibly generous. For the grift, good chat today. Thanks for the back and forth. As all, yes, I plan on chatting much more, not just in the Crucible server there in Discord, but also in my server. We're going to get a community going and do some chatting, have some fun. Crisco, as always, incredibly generous for $20. It says, it's cramped in the subway. Please send help. Shouldn't you be fishing? What are you doing in the subway? And lastly, Blasterbutt for $10 says, for Hank's dinosaur-themed gazebo. Now we're talking, finally. My favorite dinosaur, by the way, I tell him all the time, is Ankylosaurus. He's a T-Rex, man. And then he always tells my wife what she has to like. So she's Brachiosaurus. She didn't get to pick. Also, another funny thing, he calls me race car dad, and he calls himself Motorcycle Hank. But for some reason, his mom is School Bus Mom, which is interesting. I appreciate being race car dad. Oh, the jerk coming in with $10 says, I kept hitting the like button, but the number refused to go up. So I'm helping with the super chat. Good luck, sir. Thank you. YouTube screwing with me, isn't allowing the like button. And remember, you can always donate to PayPal or Buy Me a Coffee. You'd be the first person to subscribe to me on Buy Me a Coffee. Who wants the honor? All right, enough grifting. We'll grift later in the show. Thank you all. You're all incredibly generous. Really, honestly, grifting doesn't come natural to me. Like, you could ask certain people. I'm uncomfortable taking people's money most of the time. It's amazing how generous people have been to me. But seeing as how I'm trying to do this for a livelihood, more important than my feelings about not asking for money is actually providing for my family. So send those dollars in. Thank you so much. All right. Now let's see. We'll get into the show here. Where's the little... You ready for Nor's Notes? No. I didn't need that. See, already I'm boomering it up. Where are we at? How about... No. We need a good theme song for Nor's Notes. All I got's the default stuff. I got this. Nor's Notes. Economic doom and gloom has not panned out. We were told from within 4 days of Trump being sworn in, Democrats on their official X page were saying things like, it's been 4 days and Trump hasn't lowered the price of eggs. Of course, we knew the egg prices were high because all of these chickens were culled during the Biden administration. Even if you didn't know that, a reasonable person would know that it would be impossible to blame a president that had only been in office for 4 days for a spike in egg prices. And yet, Democrats did this. Now, as I argued with Democrats on X and other platforms about the absurdity of this position, I warned them that inevitably, the way something like egg prices will go, if you have to cull a bunch of chickens, eventually, I know, maybe they're not big on biology, as we've seen many times, but many of these Democrats need to understand that eventually chickens can be repopulated, which will increase the supply of eggs, which would then naturally lower them. And those prices wouldn't even lower necessarily because of anything Trump was doing. And yet, if you're going to unreasonably blame Trump for the increase in egg prices in 4 days, well then, of course, the logical conclusion would be if those prices drop, that you would also give Trump credit for that. Of course, when I bring up, okay, where are you talking about egg prices now as they've fallen? A few of them admitted the truth. We were just joking. We didn't really care about it. This fear-mongering was brought to you by the same people who gaslit you about Biden's economy. It was something that I thought was stupid politically from the get-go within year one of the Biden administration. It was obvious that the economy was bad, that inflation was not affordable for particularly the poor and working class. And yet, instead of saying, they could have even said this, you're right, it's bad, but it's Trump's fault. It was because he mishandled the pandemic. Instead, they were like, that's one of the greatest economies ever. Look at how many jobs we're creating. It's fantastic. Great economy. It's awesome. And I said, it's such a weird political message because that's one issue that you really can't gaslight people about. You could BS people on things that they don't see directly in their life every day, like maybe foreign policy. Heck, maybe even the border. But if you're buying groceries every week and you see, wow, my dollar's going less and less every time, it's hard to gaslight, no. Everything's fine. It's actually great. And I said, put yourself in the perspective of a Joe Biden voter. Oh boy, I'm struggling. My dollar's not going as far. I need help. Let's see what the people I voted for are saying. Oh, they're saying everything's great. So what's the implicit message? Well, it must be a unique situation with you or something wrong with you. These people gaslit us over and over about how great the economy. They still try to do it. The Biden economy was great. It's all Trump. We discussed the egg prices. I forgot this was on the slide there. Now that that's ended, all of a sudden the narrative's gone. Then the people who told you that 2 declining quarters under Biden were not a recession anymore, even though previously, every time we had 2 declining quarters, we said that was a recession. Those people said, nope. Now that's not a recession. Technically, that's not the only part of it that's the definition of it. Then they said we were about to enter a recession under Trump. Oh, his tariff policy, everything was so bad. Now we see many of the banks that were predicting that, and the Democrats touting it, are changing their predictions. In fact, the chance of a recession is under 50% now on Polymarket. Then there was Doge and how dangerous it was, and they're getting access to all your data, and oh my goodness, we can't look through wasteful spending, and we can't stop this spending. It'll collapse the economy, amongst other things. Millions of people will die of disease like AIDS and cancer. We must keep sending this money. Oh, by the way, pay no attention to the man behind the curtain that most of this money is going to organizations that absolutely hate the people that voted for Trump. Then came the stock market collapse. People were saying it was imminently going to bottom out. Remember, Jim Cramer, that great economist, said we're going to have Black Monday. Since he's made that prediction, stocks have gone up precipitously. They said it was going to bottom out for a considerable amount of time. Well, since Liberation Day, when Trump first started to announce these tariffs, stocks are roughly back to where they were then. All of this is about Orange Man bad and maintaining the status quo. The truth is, they're happy with the economy the way it was. They're happy with mass government spending because it disproportionately goes to interests that they want. That's what the Democrats are happy about. They don't want to cut back on waste and fraud. They're happy with the wealth disparity as you see it increase between the working class and the wealthiest. They're absolutely fine with that. They're actively cheering for the economy to collapse. Remember when Bill Maher said during Trump's first term that he would cheer for a depression if it meant that Trump would lose? Or how about Stephen Colbert saying he would happily pay $20 for a gallon of gas or some amount like that, $15 or $20? Of course, the wealthy could afford that. Democrats never cared that the economy was bad for average people. They're angry that people voted against them in part because of the economy. That's what the whole egg thing was right out of the gate. Why did so many of these Democrats that I debate all the time, within 2 days of Trump being sworn in, start yelling about egg prices? What do I tell you when Democrats are being hypocrites? It proves 2 things. One, that they don't care about what they're talking about. And second, they know you do. They knew people were upset about the massive inflation that we saw under the Biden administration. And they hated the people for being upset about that. Shut up, you plebes. Shut up and take it. We're what's best for you. So what? You have to pay more. Shut your mouth. How dare you vote against that? Us for that. And so, what do they do as soon as they lose? Within 2 days. Oh, egg prices, it's Trump's fault. Then when egg prices go down, many of them admit, well, we never believed that. We were just joking. Right, they're ridiculing the people that actually were struggling because of inflation. Oh, you want to vote against us for that? Then fine. Now look, 2 days later, nothing's happened. They gaslit Americans about not just inflation, but also things like illegal immigration. 2021, the border was fine. 2022, the border was fine. 2023, the border was fine. 2024, oh, there's a lot of problems at the border. It's all Trump's fault. Same with inflation. We saw it getting double digits year over year. It's not that bad. It was okay. Great economy. And the inflation numbers anyways were massaged and undercovered, despite all of that. If you attract inflation in the same way, in the same formula that we did back in the 80s, we were hitting as much as 15, 16% year over year. I said from the get-go that this would be the story on inflation. We would have such high inflation year over year, like 10%, double digits, that what would happen would be inevitably that height of that percent that it was increasing would drop off. And then they would say, see, we beat inflation. Here's the example I gave. Because I'm not good at math, we're just going to take a nice round number. Let's say that a loaf of bread cost $1 when the day Joe Biden sworn in. And I could tell you that there's two possible solutions, or two possible outcomes. One would be 4 years later, when his term ends, the bread costs $5 a loaf. The second would be that bread costs $5 a loaf. You say, but that sounds like the same thing. But wait, in scenario one, after year one, bread costs $5 a loaf. In scenario two, after year one, it costs $2. Then it costs $3 the next year. Then it costs $4 the next year. And then it costs $5 his final year. Now, as far as you're concerned, in that final year, you're still paying $5 a loaf, 5 times more than you previously paid. But in scenario one, they would say inflation 0%. It's 0%. Yeah, because it went up 500% year one and then went up 000. But in scenario two, they'd say, oh, inflation's 100%. You could see the absurdity of that position, and Democrats understand it, because now you could make a similar argument with Trump. Wow, we're having historic days with the stock market increasing. What was it like? I think it was the S&P went up for like 30 days straight, which had never happened before. And the Democrats will correctly say, yeah, that's because it dropped so fast under Trump. Congratulations, we're back to where we started. And yet when it came to inflation, all you heard during election season was the Democrats and Biden have basically beat inflation. There's no guarantee that Trump's plans will work. But so far, it's looking pretty decent. The important part was trying something. The status quo was not sustainable for working class Americans. The increased deficit spending, basically we spent something like 20% of our debt. I forget the exact numbers. We'll find it later. That increased to like 30 under COVID, and then it stayed there. Now it's dropped down to like 23. That's still not sustainable. Even 20 was too high. The working class continues to struggle more and more. All of these jobs that we were told were created we'll talk about that in a second. The status quo wasn't sustainable. Manufacturing fleeing, increasingly relying on countries that we consider enemies like China for basic necessities, including things like ammunition. Imagine that we had to go to war with them. Look at the pandemic, a disease that was most likely created in a lab in China with funding from the United States government and Dr. Fauci. And then for the basic medical equipment we needed to try to prevent, whether it be masks, your mileage may vary on the success of them, but other Simple Pharmaceuticals, we had to import from the very country that sent us the virus. Something radical needed to be tried. That doesn't mean that that radical attempt is guaranteed success. It's still early. We don't know. Trump's plan was to threaten tariffs to get better trade deals. So far, so good. It looks like those trade deals are coming. And the economic unpredictability that harmed the stock market seems to, so far, about broken even. Now we see good data coming out showing inflation's the lowest it's been since 2021. It was like 2.2, under expectations, despite the fact the entire Democratic Party and the majority of the media told you that tariffs would massively drive up inflation. So far, we've yet to see that. So Trump tried something. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. I'll call balls and strikes. But we had to try something. The establishment politicians would have continued the slow, death by 1,000 cuts decline of the American working class in order to achieve their goal of sort of a neo-feudalism of haves and have-nots and a globalist agenda. They would have kept the border open, and they would have kept these disastrous policies of government spending and increased government jobs that would have continued to hollow out manufacturing in the United States and made the working class poorer and poorer and poorer until they were dependent on the government and they would be more malleable. And thank goodness Trump tried something different. And it turns out the fear-mongering so far hasn't panned out. Now, that doesn't mean that serious negative effects couldn't occur in the near future. But we were told this was it. Oh, my goodness, the stock market isn't going to rebound for years. It has. Oh, my goodness, as soon as he announced this, wait until you see the next quarter, or the next period. Inflation's going to be through the roof. It hasn't been. Democrats will actively cheer for economic collapse. As I said, Bill Maher before, Stephen Colbert. The news this week has been pretty good. Billions, if not trillions of dollars of countries and companies talking about investment in the United States. Trade deals, or at least discussions occurring with not just our ally countries, but also with countries like China. The stock market's been looking pretty good. Inflation's lower than predicted, much better than the bulk of the Biden administration. Heck, if you're into that sort of thing, if you're a lefty, you even have Trump offering an executive order to massively lower the price of prescription drugs. Is it any surprise that the people that lied to you over and over and over about economic data, immigration data, heck, even Joe Biden's cognitive health, would now fear-mongering about every single thing that Trump tried would be the end of the economy? Even the job numbers that were touted, news came out this week. So in the 6 months during election season, the job numbers that were the official statistics were basically oversold by 1 million. We'll pull up the data here later if I can find it, but it was something to the effect of there was a claim that like 700,000 something odd jobs were created by the Biden administration during that time frame, and the real number was something like 300,000 lost. Even with these bureaucracies massaging the data, the American people could see through during that election season. And if they were willing to massage the data to benefit the Democrats and Joe Biden, do you think they'd be unwilling to massage it to harm Trump? Remember, the first impeachment of Trump. It is my argument that the real problem that we need to deal with in Washington isn't Joe Biden. Heck, it's not even the feckless members of Congress, though it could be if they would do their job instead of abdicating responsibility. The real power in Washington is the unelected bureaucracies within the executive agencies. Presidents come and go. Those agencies remain in perpetuity. And they feel that they're the people that know best and are in charge. In the first impeachment of Trump, how many times did you see people from the State Department testify that Trump went against, quote, our foreign policy? No. Trump was the duly elected president. He's your boss. He's the head of all of the agencies in the executive branch. He sets the foreign policy. You could offer suggestions. You could implement his vision, but it ain't your foreign policy. That's how these bureaucrats feel. And they feel that Trump, hopefully rightly so, is a threat to them. So anything they could do to try to sabotage Trump, they're likely to try. So the fear-mongering thus far has been inaccurate. It's been a good week for Trump when it comes to economic data, trade deals, etc. We'll see if that ball keeps rolling. But look how dour so many of the Democrats are. Bad news is good news when it comes to them. They see things going well for Trump. Ooh, that sounds real bad to them. So let's hope the trend continues. We get more positive economic news. And for my Democrat brothers and sisters that are out there that are watching, I hope that you thrive economically and that you enjoy actually having a president that's concerned about the people of this country, including those that don't vote for him. All right, there's the Nor's notes for the day. Let's go get super chats and we'll dive in here. Crisco for $5 says, still in Tokyo, no fishing yet. And the Aki, here we go again. I'm just some dumb redneck. I speak Yinzer, that's it. Akihabara stop came up, so it emptied. Okay. I can't tell you how many times I've been driving around here in rural Pennsylvania and had to slam on the brakes because people were at the Akihabara stop. It's a real big problem here in rural Pennsylvania. Thanks so much, though, Crisco. Ricky Mensenbaum for $10. Thanks as always, my friend, says, just left Pearl's channel. She is not online. But she can't frame his argument correctly. Purposely or unintentionally, she was bad. Agreed. And if you're interested in my review of their debate last night, Pearl and Andrew Wilson's, you can go check my live stream from yesterday. Jess Gerald for $5 says, Rob, let me help you grift. Gerald, go donate memberships, you dim-witted, lazy, flaming dumpster fire. Yeah, you've really been slacking, Gerald. The normal, 100 to 200 memberships that you donate a night, I haven't seen that for 2-3 days. I started to wonder if something was going wrong with you. Were you at the casino or something? You bet it all in black and it didn't work out? Get out there and donate, Gerald. And by the way, here's what we should do. We'll set this up some night. It'll be just Gerald versus everyone else, and we'll see who donates more. I'll give it to you. I'm not even asking for another individual to donate more than just Gerald. I want to see if collectively people could outpace him. And to be honest, my money will be on Gerald, so we'll add it up. We'll add up the tally here at the end of the night. We'll see how it works. Then we got Gerald for 50 memberships coming in hot already. Thank you so much. But a potential contender for the throne, Lost Avarice for $50 says, support Rob at the channel for the Crucible crew. Thank you. And the always great Robert Whaley for $10 says, I tried to buy you a cafefe, but in Alex Jones' voice, I'm not supposed to say that word with my work. I'm kind of retarded. So here's $10 until I figure it out. They're turning the coffee gay. Thank you so much, Robert. Thomas O'Brien with 20 memberships. Thank you so much, Thomas. Gerald, I got to say, don't get me wrong. Always appreciate your kindness, but I think you're losing. Just saying. Lost Avarice has already came in strong with $100. And now we have Cat for $100. Thank you so much. Says, I'm blocked from membership gifting, but here is money. Thank you so much, Cat. By the way, I saw you on Andrew's channel. I can't speak highly enough of the people that support not just me, but that support multiple conservative channels. I talk about this a lot, but the institutional biases from these platforms against actual conservatives is through the roof. Whether it be shadow banning, whether it be sort of just straight up banning channels, whether it be demonetizing, whether it be manipulation of the algorithm. One of the things that makes the Crucible so impressive is Andrew was able to plow through that and achieve what he's achieved despite that. And one of the best things that people do to help people like me and other big streamers like Andrew or other small streamers is when you donate to streamers like that, it actually helps them tremendously be able to continue to get their message out. We're not like these lefties that could just go and try to be a Destiny clone and all of a sudden the algorithm's pushing you on places like Twitch and you have hundreds of people watching. Some of us, like me, have been plowing away at this. Granted, as a hobby, but since 2019, I have friends that have been doing it longer than that. Mr. Ubercause, always great to hear from you. We'll have to chat soon, by the way. I'm actually in contact with several lawyers, and I would love for you to join to do sort of a show where a group of lawyers come together. I'm not a lawyer, but I could moderate that or just be a participant as a layman. Maybe that would be something that would be good for lawyers to have a layman, because I think a lot of times lawyers are so specialized in their field that it's when you hear them talk, the average person's like, wait, explain that to me for a second. But you're always incredibly generous. Thanks so much for the Get 50 memberships. And then Lost Avarice for $50 more says, bring it, Gerald. Well, Gerald getting smoked. And Cat for another $100 says, do it, Gerald. Let's go. Look at this. I'm getting great at this grift thing. Thanks to all of you generous people. Thank you guys so much. I'm killing it today. I'm going to treat myself to another Celsius tomorrow. I could afford some more. I might get an air conditioner by the end of the night. Let's get Amazon on the horn. Thank you so much, Kat. Devin Anderson, thank you so much. 3 months a member, thank you, says W. Rob, W. Crucible Crew. Couldn't agree more, thank you. And Jess Gerald coming in strong with another 50 memberships. Whoo, it's getting hot in here. Man, you guys are crushing it. The whales are fighting. I hear you. I don't even know what to say. People are awesome. Thank you so much. It's incredibly appreciated. Again, trying to jump in and do this full time, this sort of support means a lot. Because I'll be honest, I'm scared shitless to leave my job, because for me, spoiler alert, if you missed the debate between Andrew and Pearl, I agree with Andrew that the highest value for me, the most important thing, is being married to a loving wife who is a fantastic mother to my child. That is the most important thing to me. And because of that, the absolute highest important thing that I could do is provide for my family. And leaving guaranteed money of a 9-to-5 job, which was actually a job where I'm working about 90 or 100 hours a week, is scary. So these sorts of, donations are incredible. Jess Gerald gives 50, gives another 50. Thank you so much. Coming in and strong. It's gonna be tight, man. We're gonna have to add up these numbers at the end. It's gonna be real tight. You have to stick around to the end to see who wins. Gerald versus the world here. And Lost Avarice says, Gerald for $50. Thank you. You guys are crushing it. Jess Gerald, another 50 memberships. Man, Gerald, you're going to be in trouble with that Crucible crew, man. With all these donations. Thank you so much. Holy shit. Wow. Gerald, I think you're going to have a tough time winning tonight. Silent. Unbelievable. Unbelievably generous for $500. Thank you so much. You guys are rock star. That's incredibly generous, man. There's people here that have given insane amounts of money tonight. I'm humbled. You guys are amazing. I don't know what to say. Maybe my show will just be reading super chats all night, which was great for me, but man, I'll be maybe not the greatest for the audience, but thank you guys so much. Really, from the bottom of my heart. Vita for $2. Thank you so much. Says, I want to be part of the grift sharing. Vita, you're one of the OGs. You'll always, that one thing I can say about you in life, you'll always be part of some grift chain. Hopefully mine. So thank you. Kat for another $100. Says, oh, thank you so much. And then we got Michael Stuckey for $50. Thank you so much. You guys are the best. I'm humbled. I tell you what, you keep sending the super chats. I'm going to jump into some other topics because I got a lot to talk about tonight. Now, I stay up late, so we can go till 2 a.m. if necessary. I certainly think that you guys have paid for it, so let's roll. So we talked about the economic data, and I could get more into that if you like. But I think the theme of tonight's show is the narratives that you see from the Democrats that come crashing down. One of the narratives that I think I recommend that if you're someone who is arguing with Democrats, or you're talking to people in your life that, we're privileged here, at least me, and I think maybe you all as well, that we're afforded the time to at least have as a hobby to look into some of these political matters. Why do I say that? Because you're watching some fat guy like me talk about politics at 10:51 at night. Most people that are working, at least in my life, most of the people I know here in rural Pennsylvania, they're conservative. They would be Republicans. They would vote conservative, and they voted for Trump if they voted. But most people are apolitical. At least it used to be that way before the pandemic. One of the reasons I started this channel in the first place was I'd be ranting and raving at the bar, at a cookout or something about politics, and people are like, I just don't want to talk about it. And I get that. Oftentimes it's not the most, you could sort of easily get blackpilled looking at cultural issues or political issues. I understand that. So if you're working to provide for your family, I don't have time for this. I'm here having a beer and watching the ball game, whatever it may be. I don't want to think about this stuff. So I started the channel. So I had like-minded people that could at least possibly come here and listen to me rant and rave. So far, so good. Getting better every day. I appreciate you all for that. Jess Gerald concedes defeat, by the way. Says that's all my money for the week. Well played, chat. You win this time. Gerald, thank you so much, man. You're always incredibly generous. We'll get to more super chats, I promise, if you're putting them in there. We'll see if anyone could beat Cat and Silent and Gerald are very high in the list today, like 400. There's other people that are right up there as well. So we'll see who the ultimate winner is here at the end of the night. But on these political issues, most people I know would be conservative and they just didn't want to talk about it till they see politics slap them in the face. Oh, you can't go to your grandmother's funeral. You can't go to work. You're non-essential. You can't have a birthday party for your daughter. Hell, your daughter can't even go to school. That's how bad things got. Then all of a sudden, people were concerned about politics. But even still, most people aren't sitting around looking at this stuff. You have limited hours in your day, and unless you're a super weird nerd like me or it's your job, you're probably not looking at politics multiple hours a day. So how do you know what to trust? Well, there has to be bare minimal levels of credibility before you listen to people. And when you see groups, particularly groups with power that are working in tandem, that are pushing the same sorts of narrative, that are willing to blatantly lie to you about the most obvious of things, I think that becomes pertinent in every time that they're crafting some sort of message. From the day that Trump came down the escalator in 2015, it's been one scandal after another, most of which have been complete and utter garbage. Yes, those scandals were directed against Donald Trump, but more aptly, what they were designed to do was to protect the establishment class. When you're arguing with lefties that hate Trump, the majority of them aren't embracing a political figure or ideology that they really support. Their political ideology is first and foremost, I hate Trump. They get that from a defense of the establishment. They don't want a politician coming in and upsetting the apple cart in the status quo. That's why their nightmare scenario in 2016 was Trump versus Bernie. They took care of Bernie in the primaries. They figured, well, whatever, Hillary will easily beat Trump, just like Brexit. We'll give the people their vote. Yes, yes, democracy, woo. Then they'll clearly vote for Hillary. End of story. Didn't work that way, though, did it? Their hubris undone them. And so ever since then, it's been a full court press. You talk to these people, they don't care. They'll throw any individual politician under the bus. Look what they're doing to Joe Biden today. One of the things I told Biden, because I assume he watches my show, why wouldn't he? I was like, listen, Biden, once they kicked him out of the party, I was like, come clean now, man, because these people are going to stab you in the back, particularly if Trump wins. They're going to blame you. They're going to throw you under the bus. You understand that, right? So now, while you still have leverage, you should come out and tell the truth about them. And now look what's happening. All you have to do is turn on X and look at your favorite Democrat media members. Well, we can't believe what? Joe Biden was physically and cognitively declined? We're flabbergasted. Jake Tapper, write a book about this. This is crazy. What? No, for real? We were duped. We were lied to. Huh? How could it be? They weren't lied to. They're not journalists. They're propagandists. The lefties that I debate, the Democrats that I debate, they don't care about Joe Biden. They care about Orange Man bad. And if they got to throw Biden under the bus to get to the Orange Man, fine. There's 10 more politicians that are establishment just like Biden that they'll endorse afterwards. They don't care. And so it'll be scandal after scandal. Trump said drink bleach. Trump said Nazis are good people. Trump misfed the koi fish. Trump wore a blue suit to the Pope's funeral. Trump's an agent of Russia. There are things to complain about Donald Trump that reasonable people could disagree with him. I complain about all sorts of things that I don't like what Trump's doing. But I'll tell you this, I'm tired of pretending that the same people that willingly lied to you and gaslit you over and over and over about a litany of things, whether it be scandals of Trump or talking up the people that are his opponents, I'm disinterested in hearing from them. And to me, the most obvious, easiest thing for people to understand is anyone that lied to you about Joe Biden's cognitive health should never be trusted again until they have a mea culpa, an answer for what they did. I am so tired of debating these people on these issues. How many times have you seen me in the past month debate these Democrats and they're like, there was no media cover-up. Look, here's 3 stories from the New York Times that mentions, well, some people say that Joe Biden has declining faculties. See, the media covered it, and I'll say, well, if that's the case, then why are members of that same media now out there saying, we had no idea that Joe Biden was cognitively declined. We were lied to by him and his administration. How could both things be true? That places like CNN, led by Jake Tapper, covered Joe Biden's cognitive decline, and now they're writing books saying we were lied to about Joe Biden's cognitive decline. How could both of those be true? I'm so sick and tired of arguing with Democrats about things that they claim absolutely happened that are just completely outside the scope of reality. Trump said Nazis were good people. No, he didn't. Trump said drink bleach. No, he didn't. Everyone talked about Joe Biden's cognitive decline. No, they didn't. And their attempts to gaslight and rewrite history should let you know the character of people that they are. Now, that's not to say that people, including myself, don't get stories incorrect. I'll go a step further. Could you say that I've been a hypocrite? Sure. I try to be less of a hypocrite than most people. I try my best to call out when I think things occur on my side that I disagree with. But absolutely, if you're someone like me that has streamed thousands upon thousands of hours, could I have said one thing one night and then 3 years later said something that seems to disagree with that? Yeah. And I don't think that that's an automatic, oh, well, if anyone ever said something that's contradictory to something they said previously, then we can't trust anything they ever say. I'm not making that claim. I'm saying when there's something so blatant, like Joe Biden's clear cognitive decline, and you defend it and say, I defend him, say, I don't see it. Like panel after panel after, I remember I was on a panel with Brianna Wu. Brianna Wu's on this panel. And Destiny. I think it was that panel. And I was like, I don't think Joe Biden's going to be the nominee in 2024. I don't think he's going to make it. Now, granted, I said most likely at that point was Michelle Obama. I was wrong about that. But I was right fundamentally about his health I wasn't 100% certain, but the point of the story is they ridiculed me. Oh, sure. Yeah, okay. Now when I talk to lefties, they're like, yeah, we always knew that there was a problem with Biden's cognitive decline. It's always the same story. When things are happening in real time, they're like, you're a conspiracy theorist. That's outlandish. How dare you? What a ridiculous. And then years later, when it no longer affects them, when it comes to immediate political power, they're like, oh, yeah, but that was a long time ago. How about Russiagate? I was writing in 2017. I can bring up the link later if you're interested. How if it turned out that the FBI used unverified opposition research to get FISA warrants to spy on Trump's team, that it was the biggest political scandal in the history of this country. One presidential candidate taking unverified opposition research from the other candidate and then taking it, not verifying it. I guess it's redundant if I said unverified, but you get the point. And then using it to spy on the first candidate, who, by the way, all the people in the 6th floor of the FBI hated Trump. We're talking about insurance policies or #resist. Or it was led by someone like James Comey, who could see pictures of him with his I'm with her mug after the election. In real time, when it was occurring, and it was like, whoa, when it was being used to attack like a cudgel for 4 years Trump, that he was an asset of Russia. You were a crazy conspiracy theory for thinking the FBI would do something like that. And then little by little, it turned out, actually, that's exactly what happened. And then what happens? That was a long time ago. What can you do now? Oh, well, that's regrettable. Whoopsie daisy. Anyways, we're on to the next news cycle. God willing, we'll get behind to exactly what happened on January 6th. You know, maybe the pipe bomb. Let's find out who planted that. The most serious thing that occurred January 6th. If it would turn out that it was lefties or people connected to the FBI or something that did that, and the narrative that we've been fed was, I know this is going to blow your mind, hyperbolically exaggerated to attack Trump and his political allies and his supporters, they wouldn't care. They would say it was a long time ago. The same people that scream January 6th every day would say it's a long time ago. Oh, well, what can you do now? It's a long time ago. Anyways, we're on to the next thing, a scandal of Trump. Did you see that blue suit? See the blue suit he wore at the Pope's funeral? It's always in real time, you're a crazy conspiracy theorist. We're not even going to talk about it. And then once it's proven to be true years later, well, it was a long time ago. What can you do? Always the same story. But what makes the Joe Biden cognitive decline story unique is how every single person that bothered to watch 5 minutes of Joe Biden at any time after he was elected could see that something was wrong. And yet, the people that cover him for a living and the people in political office that were surrounding him and seeing him all today, almost to a T, said, don't believe your lying eyes. It's cheap fakes. Remember the video at the Easter egg rule where the Easter bunny, literally the Easter bunny, someone dressed as the Easter bunny, had to take Joe Biden, the dawdling old man, around and show him where he was supposed to be going? This is a different story than, well, we think Trump's tariffs will be bad. Or I think Trump's tax cuts will be good. And then maybe things don't work out the way you want. This is cut and dry. There's no middle ground here. Everybody could see how declined Joe Biden was. We all saw it. These people, for political reasons, lied right to your face. From the top, the people in Biden's administration, his vice president, people at the top levels of Congress, Chuck Schumer, Pete Buttigieg, to the media people that cover him. Videos going viral today as Jake Tapper's cashing in on this book going, I was duped. Oh my goodness, I was duped. Who would have known that Joe Biden was declined like that? Meanwhile, when Laura Trump was on his show and said, yeah, cognitive decline, he's haranguing her. Now, we don't have proof of that. Now he's cashing in, acting like he never did that. Well, actually, one time in my one monologue, I said the word cognitive decline, so... Why would I ever listen to anything, the people that gaslit us that blatantly, the most blatant gaslighting cover-up scandal that I've seen in my lifetime? Not necessarily the most scandalous, because I still think Russiagate and the 4 years of the FBI being weaponized against Donald Trump and protecting his opponents, I still think that's a worse scandal for the country. But when it comes to just blatantness, and I thought it'd be a tough bar to pass, I thought the blatant bullshit of, well, COVID's bad, but you know what's worse? Racism. And yes, if you try to go to work, you'll catch COVID. What do you want, grandma to die? But if you want to go march for Black Lives Matter, it's a magical virus. It doesn't spread at the Black Lives Matter rally. Isn't that amazing? If you go to the Trump rally, it'll spread. And so you can't go to the Trump rally. But if you go to the Black Lives Matter rally, racism's worse than COVID anyways, and it can't spread it. Isn't that amazing? What an amazing virus. By the way, reminder, I will get to all the super chats. I'm just trying to keep the flow of the show going, and then we'll get to super chats. That seemed to be a high mark of bullshittery to pass. But they did it with the, what are you talking about, Joe Biden cognitively declined? I don't see any evidence. That's outlandish conspiracy theories. That's outlandish. He's got a stutter. It's just a stutter. What are you talking about? Those are cheap fakes. Those videos you're seeing are cheap fakes. That did it. That takes the cake. Now, I'm supposed to believe this narrative, well, we were misled. Okay, let's take that at face value for a second. Jake Tapper and the rest of the media was misled by these dastardly bastards in the Democratic Party and in the Biden administration. Okay, then wouldn't the next logical question be, I wonder what else they misled us about? Maybe we're not going to bring those people on to talk to them anymore because they lied to us and made us look like fools. Maybe that's what I would say. If I was Jake Tapper and I was legitimately misled, let's leave reality for a second and pretend that Jake Tapper's eyes didn't work. And by the way, here's how I know that Jake Tapper knew that Biden had cognitive decline. You want to know how I knew? Because I knew, and I don't have near the access to Joe Biden that Jake Tapper did and other people at his network and his media colleagues. So if I could see it and you could see it, then I'm damn sure Jake Tapper could see it. But let's pretend he was blind or he's really busy, and he didn't see it, and he was legitimately duped. Wouldn't you be furious? The fact that basically the entirety of the Democratic Party, and it's not just Joe Biden lied to you, it's everyone in his cabinet. It's Kamala Harris, who, by the way, just ran for president. It's Chuck Schumer. It's all these other Democrat politicians that were in the room. It's people like Pete Buttigieg that said, actually, when we're talking to engineers, as Secretary of Transportation, when we're talking to engineers, oftentimes it's difficult for me and the engineers to keep up with Joe Biden. That's how with it he is. That's what Buttigieg said at one point. So if you're Tapper, the next time one of those people want to come on your show and they're like, well, Donald Trump's violating civil rights, wouldn't you say, yeah, I don't believe you. You're full of shit. Why haven't you answered for the fact that you lied to me and made me look like a fool for 4 years? But he's not going to say that. And you know how I know he's not going to say that? Because Adam Kissinger used to go on CNN, including Jake Tapper's show, and say, I've seen evidence of Donald Trump colluding with Russia. I've personally seen the evidence. And then it turned out that was bullshit. Did Jake Tapper say, well, that's it. No more Adam Kissinger on my show? No, he brings him on and acts like nothing happened. Now, how does that work? Is Jake Tapper just really stupid? Is he blind? No. It's not that difficult. It's not that they were duped. It's that they're not journalists. Their role is not informing the public. Their role isn't to hold truth to power. Their role is to protect the powerful from the truth. They were there to beat Donald Trump and to reinforce the status quo. That's their job. It's not that they didn't see the cognitive decline. It's not that they missed it because they were biased and didn't want to see it. It's that they saw it and intentionally covered it up. And now their argument is, our bad, anyways, on to the next Trump scandal. That's Kamala Harris, that's Chuck Schumer, that's Pete Buttigieg, that's Jake Tapper and all the other people at these Democrat media outlets. That's Destiny, that's Wick, that's Pisco, that's all these lefties that I talk to. We didn't know. We saw there was a little decline, but it wasn't that bad. And Trump's worse. Trump's decline's worse. He's worse. Do you see how stupid he is? Excuse my language. I know that I'm not trying to swear as much anymore, but fuck them all. I'm not interested in what they think about, well, what do you think about Abrego Garcia? What do you think about the Alien Enemy Act? What do you think about these tariffs? Fuck you. That's what I think. Fuck you. Because you have proven yourself to be so bad faith that it doesn't matter. It's irrelevant to try to have a conversation with you. You don't give a shit. If you're willing to blatantly lie about something like Joe Biden's cognitive decline, then certainly you're willing to lie even if you don't believe that these tariffs are a bad thing. You'll just bullshit your way through it because any lie is justified for the ultimate goal, which is taking down the orange man. That's the truth. Oh, I'll send that Discord link. Let me get to that for a second. But yeah, I'd appreciate if one of my mods could spam that Discord link. We're trying to grow the Discord community. We're going to do stuff like play games, stuff like that. We're going to have members game nights, fun shows that aren't necessarily just me ranting and raving about politics. So as you see all of this news, I don't care what the story is. Ask yourself, is this one of those bullshitters that lied about Biden's cognitive decline? That doesn't mean, right? Sometimes the boy that cried wolf is right. Sometimes there is a wolf. But no longer should you accept them at face value on anything. They're willing to piss on your leg and tell you it's raining. And as you sit there watching them shake it and you're like, hey man, could you stop pissing on my leg and pull your pants up? They'll say, what are you talking about? I'm not pissing. That's not my little wiener you see right there. That's not what that is. No, it's a Vienna sausage I had in my pocket. That's what are you I can't believe you'd accuse me of pissing on your leg. It's outrageous. Now, there's a lot of people that accuse me of being bad faith and this, that, and the other. Show me one time of doing anything remotely similar to this. That's my feelings on Jake Tapper and the people that were duped. If they're duped, then why aren't they out there aggressively going after the Democrats and saying, what other narratives are they talking about that are bullshit? Why aren't they holding Democrats accountable? Because they weren't duped. All right, let's get to Super Chats because I like money, and this is probably the most money I've raised in a single night. You guys are incredibly generous here. My goodness, where did we stop? Michael Stuckey, $50. Thank you so much. I think I read it before, but it was so sweet. Your $50 in particular was so sweet. Thank you so much, Michael. Jeremiah Johnson, great movie. Great GIF as well. Good meme. Gifts one membership, thank you so much. And becomes a member. Thank you, man. Happy to have you. Jack of Trades for $20 says, I've got a 60-inch ZT Elite. Those bad boys are sweet. Nice. Jarhead, thank you so much. For $20 says, congrats, Rob. Keep up the good work. I will. Thank you so much. Another gifted membership from the new member, Jeremiah Johnson. Thank you, man. Abe Dinkus gives 5 memberships. Thank you so much, Abe. Also a great avatar. Robert Whaley, always incredibly generous with 5 memberships. We're definitely breaking records tonight. You guys are crushing it. Abe gives 5. Another 15 memberships. Thank you so much, Abe. Incredible. Thank you. Otis Driftwood. Great to hear from you again. Member for 2 months. Left accuse you. Reflection of what they do. It's the rule. Thanks so much, Otis. Lost Avarice. Incredibly generous tonight. Thank you, man. Another $20. Says Alcon, send enough memberships in order to member the entire chat. Don't stop until Cat has a star next to her name. Do it now. Damn right. Thank you, Avarice. See, that's what you need. You need people like Avarice that are not only giving to the grift, but that are actively supporting others engaging in the grift. Thank you, Avarice. Cat for $50 says, pretend this is a membership. And then I'm not very good with I don't know the names of emojis, but that looks like a oh shit face. Is that what that one's called? Thanks so much, Cat. Crushing it tonight. Abe gives another 10 memberships. My math's not the greatest, but I think that's up to 30 that Abe's given. Thank you so much, Abe. Amazing. With Ghost, great to hear from you again for $10. Says, but Rob, it was so long ago, and they say it's regrettable. So we're good now, right? No need to hold anyone accountable. Exactly. It's a long time ago. Meanwhile, the bulk of their election strategy was January 6th, which occurred 4 years previous. But boy, oh boy, if you want to talk about these stories, Joe Biden's cognitive decline that became evident that the whole world saw, even those that were barely paying attention during his debate performance, which occurred in 2024, that's a long time ago. Anyways, back to 2020, January 6th, John Rock for $2. Great to hear from you again, John. Says, please make sure you share this stream everywhere. Thank you, John. Really appreciate it. With Ghost, another $10 says, it's not that they didn't know. It's that they didn't care for their listeners to know. Exactly. Jimothy for $5. Great to hear from you again. Says, so glad to be here early on the rise of Rob. Big things coming in your future, Rob. I can feel it. Thank you. I hope so. Really appreciate it. And then Legion Gaming, 5 months member says, Jess Gerald is a Chad. I totally agree. Absolute Chad. Thank you so much. You guys are crushing it. Now, it's got to be tight. I'm thinking right now, Cat is probably winning. Silent gave 500. Jess Gerald donated probably 200 or 300, like something like 200 memberships or something. Silent gave a one-time donation of $500. So we're going to tally these bad boys up at the end of the night. Try to get an Avarice, got to be real close. Gives another 20, says, all night long, Rob, keep it up for the crew. Thank you. Happy to be part of the Crucible crew. Again, all of your donations are incredibly generous, but I have to, again, give a shout out to Andrew Wilson. For those that don't know, Andrew hired me to be a researcher, to help with debates, and to generally help out with the Crucible in any way that I can. If it wasn't for actually being hired to a position, I would have been too much of a coward to leave my job and stream full time, because even if I am willing to bet on myself that I could make money streaming, without guaranteed money, how do I look my family in the face? Because if I fail, they're the ones that are out in the street because I can't afford to pay my mortgage. So I can't say enough about Andrew Wilson for taking a chance on me, and I hope that I don't let him down. I'm going to bust my ass, not just to help him, but the entire Crucible, and for the goal of dominating online culture and cultural spaces for conservatism and the cultural values that we stand for. Zex Marquis for 3 months been a member, says, let's effing go, Rob. Thank you. Now keep getting those super chats in, and I will remind you, I am transitioning. Please help me with my transition. You could ask me about my pronouns. So I am transitioning. My pronouns will remain the same, and I'm not going to cut my genitals off or anything, but I am transitioning away from my job to become a full-time streamer. You could donate through Super Chats. You guys are crushing on that. You could also give through PayPal or this website, Buy Me a Coffee, that works as Patreon, where I keep 95% of the money. You could become a monthly subscriber. Thank you, guys. The next story that we have to talk about. What's up, Rachel? Good to hear from you. It is a big risk, and Rachel and Andrew know about it more than anyone. When, Andrew was basically in the same position I was 3.5, 4 years ago, working a job, streaming when he had time, and he decided to take a chance on himself, and he's crushed it. And it's always been, I remember talking to him years ago, and it's been one of his goals that a rising tide lifts all boats, that he wanted to make these online spaces dominant for right-wingers. We're tired of, every time you do a panel, it's some left-wing host picking left-wing topics. One more for Dad Joke Extraordinaire Wicked Wally for $2 says, for all the typical nor me behavior. Thank you. Always appreciate the Norbiters like Wicked Wally. Thank you so much. Guys are absolutely amazing. It's a good place to stop the super chats for now because I'll remember Wicked Wally, dad jokes, last person super chat, so I'll know right where to start next time. Remember though, don't leave silent or avarice or can't win. Someone's got to donate like more than $500 to get into the running. I'm just kidding. If you guys don't donate more than $500, you're still all amazing. I say it all the time. I would love to donate to people way more than I can. I would. If we all had millions of dollars, if I had millions of dollars, I'd be supporting people left and right. But I don't. So I totally understand if you can't support. But for those that can support, mucho appreciated. And it's only going to help grow this channel and hopefully other channels that share values like me and other people in the Crucible. So really appreciate it. I have not commented. You want to do that next? Well, before we... Do I want to do the South African refugees or do we want to... Let's do the insurrection first. Then we'll get to South African refugees. Maybe, or maybe we'll save that for tomorrow night. I don't know. Let's get to the insurrection. Dun, dun, dun. Now, I'm going to show you something that I showed the other night. So bear with me. If you watched my show the other day, you might not enjoy this because I'm going to go through my Nor's notes section again on the Democrat-led insurrection. Have you seen the images from a few days ago? What day was it? It was, oh boy. Let me see this again. I have it labeled. I think it was 2 days ago. So the 11th, May 11th, the day that'll live in infamy. You had a bunch of Democrats. A bus was going through with detainees into an ICE facility. The gate opened. A bunch of people rushed in, including the mayor of Newark, who was a Democrat, and a couple Democrat Congress people. Then we saw footage of at least one of those Congress people, a woman, literally assaulting ICE agents. May 11th, the insurrection, the darkest day since January 6th. Now, I think my bit on this the other day was a little better. I'll go through this fast since many of you have already heard this. But I was very choked up and tearful about this insurrection. But let's get serious here for a moment. I debated all these people like Destiny. You guys saw Andrew Wilson debate Destiny on the insurrection. The Democrats in general, their strategy, majoritarily, or at least a huge part of it going into the 2024 election was January 6th, insurrection. Trump, a coup is an insurrection. Escapes an insurrection. They tried to keep him off the ballot in Colorado. Democrats like Destiny and Pisco used these authors called Bode and Paulson for their definition of what an insurrection was. Now, I pulled the following directly from my debate with Destiny. I asked him to define insurrection. Here's the 4 criteria that he gave. An assemblage of people that are united for a common cause. Well, let's go one by one to see if this meets the definition of insurrection, this ICE attack on an ICE facility. Were the people that were there, including these Democratic officials, were they assembled for a common cause? Yes, undoubtedly. Criteria 1 met. Second, resisting the implementation or the execution of a particular law or interfering with the course of a government proceeding. Now, Destiny, in both the debate with me and Andrew Wilson, said that this doesn't have to be like preventing the electors being counted. This could mean preventing the execution of laws. And so, if you read the Bode and Paulson paper and you go through it, I believe that it would include things like if a gathering of people try to prevent law enforcement from arresting people. That would be interfering with a lawful government proceeding or action. Is that what was occurring? Yes. They were trying to prevent ICE from detaining these people. So it meets criteria 2. Criteria 3, by way of force or intimidation. Yes, they were intimidating in the fact that they trespassed and were hurling strong language and insults. And many of them used actual force. It could be construed as force breaking through the barrier in the first place to trespass, but even if you wouldn't consider that, some of them actually put hands on law enforcement agents. And don't get me started, well, they didn't really harm them. Many people on January 6th were sentenced to lengthy sentences that didn't even put hands on law enforcement. Many that did put hands, but it was very benign, like a simple push. That was, oh my God, we were told these people are heathens. So yes, it meets definition 3 and definition 4, our fourth part of the definition, for a public purpose. What this means is, if me and everyone here that has donated today and the Crucible crew and everyone in the chat, if we decide, if Andrew gets arrested and we're like, we're going to prevent the cops from taking Andrew, transferring him jails, that wouldn't be a public purpose. That's just us defending one person. But if we said we want to prevent people being deported under the Alien Enemy Act, that is a public purpose. It's not the individuals, it's the purpose behind it. So yes, it meets that definition. Based on the definition that people like Destiny gave, this is an insurrection. Now, someone asked me in the super chat earlier about the first debate that Andrew Wilson had with Destiny. For those who don't know, Andrew Wilson debates Destiny on what's the definition of insurrection. Andrew's strategy, which I agree with, was just saying, well, what's your definition of insurrection? I don't really care what the definition of insurrection is, but if you're going to make it overly broad, then we have to ask ourselves, why is it only ever being talked about here? It's the exact argument that I had with Destiny. The only difference was Destiny whined and complained, Andrew didn't give a definition. So when I debated Destiny, I said, sure, I'll give a definition. But if you remember and you go back and you watch that debate I had with him, I said, I'm willing to give you a definition and debate my definition and your definition of the term insurrection, as long as you're willing to then have a debate with me about the double standard and how institutions of power, and particularly the Democrats, are approaching these things. Because it is my belief that if they're correct that the definition of insurrection is this broad, then we will be able to point to hundreds of examples of insurrections that occurred that were never treated like this. That we never said we have to keep people off the ballot. Oh my God, we have to have these large FBI task force, etc., etc. Give me a second. I got a phone call coming in. What can we do here? What can we play? How about a little tune? We'll give you. You can just stare at this slide while I take this phone call, and I'll play a little ditty for you. Maybe. Oh, give me a second. I'm an idiot. I turned it way down. So my wife just yelled, "You're muted." I bet it was good, though. I'm a very expression-laden talker. So thank you to everyone in the chat that were probably telling me I was muted as I was trying to get through these. Democrats engaged in an insurrection. They illegally trespassed in an ICE facility, assaulted law enforcement. All of them should be removed from office, never allowed to run again. They should be arrested, tried to the full extent of the law. We should start an insurrection hunter task force to name, shame, and arrest every single Democrat who participated in this insurrection. All communication of these insurrections should be investigated by a massive FBI task force. A congressional committee should be set up, made up exclusively of people who are partisan against these Democrats, and it should hire TV producers to help make it into good primetime TV. Any Democrat who defends this insurrection is offering aid and comfort and should also be investigated and removed for engaging in an insurrection. Government should pressure social media to ban anyone who is critical of ICE and deportations, as it will no doubt inspire more dangerous insurrections. May 9th, I was wrong about the date, 2025 will go down as one of the darkest days in the history of this country. We must never let Democrats live down the terror they have inflicted on this country. Also, let's set a federal task force for boomer streamers that mute themselves. Now, do I believe that what the Democrats were engaged with here was an insurrection? No. I also don't believe January 6th was an insurrection. I believe that we should hold Democrats to the standards that they sought to hold their opponents to. That's what I believe. I warned them. Andrew warned them. Many other people warned them. If you define insurrection this broadly, then a bunch of things that Democrats engage with will be considered insurrection. If you say that federal office holders that engage in an insurrection have to be removed from office and aren't allowed to run again, then that standard should be held to the people you support. We should do the exact same tactics that were done after January 6th in the name of it being an insurrection. Remember when you could no longer do videos or talk on social media without running the risk of getting banned? Talking about potential election fraud in 2020 because, it was dangerous disinformation. Dangerous disinformation that could inspire more violence and insurrections. Remember that? Why shouldn't the same standard be held here? Just like we weren't allowed to talk about potential fraud in 2020, then you shouldn't be allowed to talk about complaining about Trump's ICE deportations. Right? Remember how you had insurrection hunters of people going through photos trying to ruin people's lives? Why not do the same here? Remember how you hired a TV producer to put on the January 6th committee that was made up almost exclusively of people that partisanly hated Donald Trump? Why shouldn't the same be done here? Remember how you had one of the largest FBI task force, in fact, maybe the largest in the history of the Bureau, to go after the people on January 6th? Let's keep that momentum going. It's a dark day, May 9th, right? Now, if you watch when I post this on X, you'll see a bunch of these sort of phony, I used to respect you, Rob. I thought you were one of the good conservatives, and now you're just being ridiculous that this is an insurrection. That's ridiculous. It's not the same as January 6th. Yes, because it's very ridiculous to hold these Democrats that I was debating that were hyperventilating about January 6th to the same standard and definitions that they offered then. Now, we're 4 days later. Have you seen Destiny comment about this Democrat insurrection? Have you seen Pisco? Any of the other people that use this particular definition, have you seen any of them comment and go, oh my God, this was a Democrat insurrection? And unlike January 6th, we actually on the ground during the insurrection had elected Democrat officials participating. Cut and dry. Not this, well, Trump said fight like hell, so technically that's him engaging in insurrection. Democrats were there assaulting police officers. Kat, thank you so much. You heading out? Man, you've been incredibly generous tonight. Thank you so much. Yeah, Mr. Name, that was the 5-hour debate I had with Destiny. Spoiler alert, he rage quit after we talked about the definition of insurrection for 4.5 hours or so. Then we start to get into the topic he agreed to talk to me about. Instead, he rage quit and then blacklisted me from his channel, so he never had to talk about that again. Where is he? Where are all they? We're 4 days on. I haven't heard any of these Democrats talk about it. Haven't heard any of them suggest kicking Democrats out of Congress for engaging in an insurrection. And now things have gotten worse, if I may. Look what we see today. Wait a minute, did they just trespass using numbers? That was one of the arguments I had with Destiny. One of the part of the definition they said was intimidation by numbers. Trespassing to stop an official government proceeding? Is that what I just saw? Well, wait a minute. I thought what security should do is shoot rubber bullets and tear gas at them, right? Isn't that the lesson we learned from January 6th? Maybe then if they got a little uppity after that tear gas and rubber bullets, maybe it's time to give them the Ashley Babbitt treatment, right? Isn't that the standard that's been set forth? Now, God forbid that happen. Unlike these partisan hacks I'm debating, I would think that'd be horrific. January 6th, first off, there should have been proper security there January 6th. There intentionally wasn't. As Capitol Chief Sund has talked about numerous times, Democrats aren't interested in that. Those that didn't engage in violence on January 6th should have been treated the same as other times people have trespassed in official government buildings, like during the Kavanaugh hearings. Slap on the wrist trespassing. Not 10 years, which is what the largest FBI task force pushed for that was going after them, or the DOJ. So now we're seeing more insurrections. But wait a minute. Here's what's even worse than that. Let me ask you a question. Who is the Democrat leader in the House of Representatives? Does anyone know? While you ponder that, let's respond to lefty friend of the show, though I use the term friend loosely, HN, who says, Rob, if you didn't accept Destiny's definition for insurrection, why are you using it now? I'm not. This is what's so funny. Democrats set a standard, say, here's our definition. This action meets that definition, so here's the punishments that we're prescribing. When I say, I disagree, we don't give a shit, this is the definition. Okay. Those punishments were largely doled out by our institutions. Huge jail sentences for January 6 people trying to keep Trump off office. Politically, this was used. We had the January 6, all the things that I talked about that occurred. That's what happened. All I want is the same standard that has been set forth to be applied equally. That's it. If it was up to me, we wouldn't have treated January 6th like an insurrection. But it wasn't up to me. We also wouldn't treat this like an insurrection. But now that the standard has been set, if people like Destiny said, this is an insurrection, here's my definition, then why shouldn't they hold to that same standard when Democrats do it? I'm consistent. I'm saying neither are insurrections, according to me. But who am I? I'm just some pissant. I'm some low-level redneck who's happened to making a decent amount of money tonight, though, streaming, thanks to a terrific audience. Why shouldn't we hold them to the same standard that they sought and successfully held us to? The minority leader of the House is a man by the name of Hakeem Jeffries. Now, while I was debating Destiny and his orbiters about January 6th, insurrection, etc., one of the terms that came up, I believe it's from Section 3 of the 14th Amendment, is the idea of providing aid and comfort. It might, let me see real quick if that's exactly... No person shall be a senator or representative in Congress or elector of president and vice president or hold any office, civil or military, under the United States or under any state who, having previously taken oath as a member of Congress or as an officer of the United States or as any member of a state legislator or as an executive or judicial officer in any state to support the Constitution of the United States, shall have engaged in insurrection or rebellion against the same or given aid or comfort to the enemies thereof. Now, part of the debates I had with these people was, what does aid and comfort mean? And when I was researching some of this, some of the authors said things like this. During the Civil War, if you were a civilian that lived in the North, and you saw an insurrectionist, a member of the Confederacy, starving, walking through your farm, and you said, come here, let me clean your wound. Let me give you something to eat. Let me give you a nice pair of shoes before I send you on your way. Guess what, asshole? You just provided aid and comfort. Aid and comfort could be language in order to defend. The Democrat minority leader, Hakeem Jeffries, let me show you what he was up to today.
Your statement the other day after there was this incident in Newark, you said they better not touch our members.
Correct.
What happens if they were to go and arrest these members, or if they would try to sanction them here in the House of Representatives?
They'll find out.
What would you do, though?
They'll
what
find out.
recourse? But doesn't that broach a...
They'll find out.
Doesn't that go across...
That's a red line.
What's the red line, though? I know we have this...
It's a red line. It's very clear. First of all, I think that the so-called Homeland Security spokesperson is a joke. It's a joke. They know better than to go down that road, and it's been made loudly and abundantly clear to the Trump administration. We're not going to be intimidated by their tactics to try to force principled opposition from not standing up to their extremism. It hasn't happened during the entirety of this failed term. It didn't happen when Donald Trump temporarily was sitting high in the immediate aftermath of the election. Do you think it's going to happen now, when he's the most unpopular president in American history after his first 100 days? Give me a break. No one's intimidated by this dude. No one. And so there are clear lines that they just dare not cross.
Your state.
So let me explain to you what just happened. Not only is he providing aid and comfort to the Democrat insurrectionist, he is literally threatening members of ICE, the Trump administration, saying that they better not do it. It's a red line. You better not. You better not arrest the insurrectionist. You better not do it. Then he's personally attacking the Homeland Security spokesperson. How is this not providing aid and comfort to the insurrectionists? This is the leader of the Democrats in the House. And by the way, this is almost universally. Show me one federal congressional member in the House or the Senate that is a Democrat that have said this was an insurrection. My goodness, we condemn it. These people need to be arrested. Show me one. Show me one. Also, from a pure hypocrisy standpoint, hilarious to see the party that literally ran on Trump's a 34-time felon, yuck, yuck, look at his mugshot, saying it's a red line if you try to arrest insurrectionists and lawbreakers from our side, when they spent 4 years using lawfare to go after Donald Trump and then bragging about it. Where's Destiny to say, my goodness, Hakeem Jeffries is supporting insurrectionists? Where is he? Where are the calls to remove Hakeem Jeffries from office and every other Democrat that has said similar things? Threatening law enforcement to not arrest insurrectionists. And predictably, what do we see? More insurrections. Not my standard. The standard that people like Hakeem Jeffries had. The standard that people that are Democrats had. HN, you could say until you're blue in the face, it's not an insurrection. Why would they say that if it's not? Because if the definition that they set forth for Trump engaging in an insurrection also applies to this, then it is an insurrection based on the standard that they set forth. Now what you see is people trying to rewrite. Well, no, what made January 6th an insurrection was that it was trying to stop the election certification. Show me any definition of insurrection that says an insurrection is when you try to stop an election certification. Show me that. It doesn't say that, does it? Instead, what the definitions of insurrection that were argued are the ones that should be legally preferable are the one that I provided you. An assemblage of people for a common purpose that's resisting the implementation or execution of particular laws or interfering with the course of government proceedings by way of force or intimidation for a public purpose. That's the definition that they gave. Based on that definition, what the Democrats are doing are insurrections. Hakeem Jeffrey is providing aid and comfort to the insurrectionists, and he's threatening law enforcement to not arrest them. And so are the majority of the Democratic Party. Some level of that. Maybe not threatening in the way Hakeem did. You people are so used to your bullshit double standards that you don't understand how absurd you look. Yes, we all know that your entire, but January 6th was an insurrection. Here's our definition. We knew it was bullshit. That's why people like me and Andrew Wilson were arguing over and over every night. This definition is bullshit. It's overly broad. But the people you support didn't give a shit. Because all you saw was, here's a way to take down Orange Man. Here's a way to go after Orange Man's followers. So we'll make the definition insanely broad, and we'll say the punishment needs to be swift and severe. Surely this will never bite us in the ass. Well, here you are. And now all you have to say is, no. The people that said that that's what an insurrection is back then were full of shit. Even though that's all people that I support, and maybe that's something that you yourself said. Well, never mind. I was full of shit back then. Now that it's biting me in the ass, never mind. I'm tired of your faux ignorance. I'm tired of the moral superiority complex that says you get to hold other people to standards that you're unwilling to hold yourself to. Fuck you. I don't mean you specifically, HN, but this group of people that do that. I don't give a shit. I warned you. I said these standards are fucking stupid, and inevitably if it's doled out to people that you support, you'll be like, this is outrageous. And here we are. It's the same old story over and over, just like I warned the left over and over again during the summer of love with the George Floyd riots. I said, listen, if we set the standard that these sorts of riots are mostly peaceful and, well, that, maybe we should, or in the words of Destiny, rioting and voting are two sides of the same coin. It's based. Okay, I said inevitably the other side will play that game. And when the right does it, you're going to lose your fucking minds. Guess what happened? To this day, January 6th, oh my God, January 6th! Let me try to shut this door. My wife and son are probably, I'm getting a little loud tonight. For that, I apologize. 1 second. Yeah, how do you think the people that didn't engage in any acts of violence that found themselves in prison because they just happened to be there peacefully protesting on January 6th feel? How do you think the ones that weren't charged with crimes but lives were ruined because insurrection hunters plastered their face everywhere? How do you think they feel? Remember, if we go back to Destiny, why do I bring up Destiny so much? One, I actually like debating the guy and think he's a skilled debater. But second, most of the people in this space that I interact with are doing a cheap Destiny impression, or they're an insane lefty. Would he say in the immediate aftermath of January 6th, it wasn't an insurrection, clearly. It was just a riot that got out of control. The people overpowered the police. If they were really trying to harm members of Congress, they would. That's what Destiny said immediately following January 6th. But once he understood the political utility, he was like, insurrection. Oh my goodness. Well, here we are. Now, where are the Democrats? Where are they at? Oh, they're bitching about Trump's taking this plane from Qatar. By the way, I wrote a blog. I'm not a big fan of this Qatar thing, let me tell you. Now, just to go in as an aside and criticize Trump for a second, the reason is it's most likely that Qatar was intentionally harboring leaders of Hamas. In any countries, particularly those in the Middle East, I'm not really gung-ho on potentially owing favors. On the other hand, when I ran for Congress, I remember talking to this congressman once who's still in Congress. He represents us here in Pennsylvania, and talked about the idea of lobbying. And he made a point which is hard to argue with, which is, hey man, if some group wants to give me money to help me get elected, and I don't change my opinion, like let's say that you're for fracking, and some group comes to you and is like, listen man, we're for the anti-fracking league, and here's $20,000 for your campaign. They donate legally, we'll assume it's legal. And you're like, thank you very much. And then you continue to vote to support fracking. Who gives a shit? The problem becomes if you consciously or subconsciously change your position so you can keep that money going in. But if you're still endorsing the same positions, who cares? So in Trump's defense, it could be like, whatever, I'm not giving them shit. But I don't like the optics of it. Now, having said that, it seems that what's going to occur is this plane would be a short-term measure until Boeing builds these other planes. It's going to be completely stripped by U.S. military to make sure that there's no bugs or anything like that in it, so there's no problems of that nature. And then it's not going to become Trump's personal property. It'll either be used by others or go into his presidential library. So I don't think it's a huge story, but I don't particularly like the optics of it. And there is a potential there for some level of pay-for-play corruption. We'll see. But how many of you knew in 2012, Hillary Clinton was gifted, I believe it was a white gold necklace from Saudi Arabia while she was Secretary of State to the tune of $500,000? How many Democrats jumped on that? But Rob, $500,000 is less than the cost of this plane. Maybe so, but it's still a huge amount of money. And comparatively to their perceived economic worth at the time, to a multi-billionaire, $500 million it's still substantial. But $500,000 to someone who's not a multi-billionaire is certainly a substantial amount of money. We'll see what happens with this plane. If it becomes Trump's personal plane, I think that that's a problem. Nonetheless, that's what they're yelling about, right? Not a damn word about the Democrat insurrection. What do I always say when they have blatant hypocrisy like this? They never cared about what they were pretending to, but they know you do. And by you, what I mean is the general public doesn't want government officials that are engaging in insurrection. They're not going to be hypocrites and lie about something that no one gives a shit about. Oh my God, did you hear Trump's entire team drinks Yoo-hoo? Everyone would be like, okay. And then Trump's team could be like, that's a lie. We don't. But who gives a shit? You wouldn't make up that lie. You make up a lie that you know will be impactful. Kids in cages. Most people don't want to see kids in cages. Period. End of story. No matter what you think should happen when it comes to immigration. You would prefer the illegals not come in the first place to put an impossible situation where we're either forced to let the kids go without the parents, or let the kids and the parents go through, or detain both the kid and the parent. Those are all bad outcomes. The best outcome is don't let them get into the country. But once that occurs, then a situation has to occur that's not the best. I don't like it. I don't like to see image of kids in cages. I think it's heart-wrenching. Nonetheless, it's the best of the possibilities in that scenario. But Democrats never gave a shit, the vast majority of them. People like Kamala Harris and Joe Biden that were saying it was a human rights abuse. You know how I know they didn't give a shit? Because when they got into office, there were 3 times more kids in cages. And what the Democrats say about it? Was AOC standing outside the facility taking tearful pictures? No. All of a sudden it was, well, those kids are different. These are different. Fuck them kids. They're different. Those kids had it coming. The ones that were in cages under Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, they were bad seeds, man. They deserve to be in those cages. They never gave a shit about kids in cages, and they never gave a shit about insurrections. They never believed their own bullshit definition. They didn't care. They never believed that we should kick Trump off the ballot, that it was that serious. I mean, they believed that we should just because they hate him politically. They did not care. They just gaslit, just like they gaslit you about Joe Biden's cognitive health. They gaslit you about, oh my God, we care so much about insurrections. They didn't give a shit. They said, hey, here's something that we can make political hay with. Let's run with it. They certainly couldn't run on the record of Joe Biden, of his record on the border, of his record foreign policy, of his economic record. I was debating people. Remember I did this big panel with Pisco and who else was there? Was it Hutch? I said, my opening statement was, all they're going to do is talk about things like January 6th and the Project 2025. They're not going to defend the record of Kamala and Biden. That's what they did. What was one of the big arguments, that the down the stretch argument? A lot of these people that I debate, what was their big argument going into the election? Oh my God, Tony Hinchcliffe told a joke about Puerto Ricans. Does that sound like a group of people that could defend the record of the person that they're suggesting? You're drawing at straws that thin? I have to pretend to be outraged by this joke about Puerto Ricans. Oh my God, Trump hates Puerto Ricans. Oh my God, get out there. They were doing spaces, doing videos on it. Oh my God, it's so terrible. And then what happens the next day? Joe Biden says Trump supporters are garbage. Well, wait a minute. The ridiculous standard that you just outlined was if a comedian makes a joke at a Republican event, then that's indicative of those Republicans. So what happens when the sitting president of the Democrats calls Trump supporters garbage? And then all of a sudden it was, no, there was an invisible apostrophe. He wasn't saying Trump supporters are garbage. He was talking about a specific Trump supporter in the name of Tony Hinchcliffe, his garbage, i.e. his statement. There was an invisible apostrophe you missed. They didn't give a shit. They don't care about this insurrection at all. They never cared about the insurrection. If the exact same thing would have happened, if Trump would have won in 2020 and January 6th would have been the exact same thing except with Democrats, they would have been like, I don't support that. It was a riot that got out of control. But come on, you're saying because Kamala Harris and Joe Biden were saying fight like hell and they think it was rigged, that's an insurrection? That's ludicrous. That's insane. There would have never been a massive FBI investigative task force. A couple people would have been given slaps on the wrist. How do I know this? Because look at the far worse riots that we saw with the Summer of Love, the George Floyd Antifa. What was the punishment that those people got? Most of them were given slaps on the wrist. And of course, Republicans aren't smart enough to be hyperbolic and blow things out of proportion like Democrats, so they would have just been like, whatever, moving on. They would have said it was a mostly peaceful protest. How dare you smear everyone that was there? Instead, what the Democrats were doing in January 6th, they literally tried to claim that officers that committed suicide months later were, quote, murdered. Just to be clear, that would imply that if any of these ICE agents at this facility where these Democrats just trespassed on and assaulted people, if any of them kill themselves in the next year, then we're allowed to say that these Democrats murdered them, correct? That's the standard, right? But no, you know what Democrats will say? Rob, that's fucking absurd. I used to respect you. How could you say something so absurd? They always knew that it was stupid and absurd. They always knew it. They just gaslit you just like they did about Joe Biden's confidence. They will blatantly lie right to your face because they feel that they are morally superior and Trump is a moral and existential threat. So the ends will always justify the means. Why? Because you are awful. That's why. All right, let's get to some more super chats. Has anyone passed up the Great Cat, Jess Gerald, Avarice, or Silent? Let's find out. Now, we ended with Dad Joke Extraordinaire, Wicked Wally. We got With Ghost again. Thank you so much for $10. Says, my hope is you surpass Andrew this year. The next year, Andrew surpasses you, and so on until you're both balding and cranky about kids on your lawn. Listen, I already got the balding part down. Look at that. Ah! I think it's funny. People say all the time, like lefties, I'll see in videos where I debate people, will be like, oh, Rob wears that stupid hat because he's balding. Yes, that's exactly right. You're guilty as charged. You are absolutely right. Nailed it. Abe Dinkus, gifts a membership and then gifts another. Thank you so much, Abe. Crushing it tonight. With Ghost, another $20. Thank you. Says, don't forget Hakeem Jeffries saying that they'll find out about ICE agents coming to arrest House members who participated in the insurrection. Those are far closer to fighting words than fight like hell. It's a red line. They know better. They know not to cross it. We'll find out. Yep. Sounds like a threat to me. Other than the colloquial fight like hell that every politician says some form of, or most do. Jeremiah Johnson says, unmute dude for $2. See, that's a little angle I've learned to grift. If I sit here and mute for like 5 minutes, people will super chat in hopes that I see. It wasn't a boomer mistake. It was genius. Thank you so much, Jeremiah. Jess Gerald for another $101.62. Now, brief story. I saw Jess Gerald donated an amount of money to the Crucible the other day that was similar. It was like some change. And I was like, what gives, Jess Gerald? You never give me an odd number like that. So successfully did that. He says, welcome to the Crucible, Rob. May normal America play in wireless headphones across the nation. Thank you so much. Really, you're an OG, my friend. Thank you so much for all you do for the channel. I couldn't be more humbled. Thank you so much. With Ghost, thank you so much for your incredible generosity as well. For $10 says, think Destiny will be brave enough to unblacklist you and have a debate about how May 11th was not an insurrection, May 9th, but I screwed up and said 11th earlier, but January 6th was, or we have to wait until Andrew owns him about it. I would say the latter. I don't think Destiny's interested in debating me. Jake from Project VO is going to interview Destiny, hopefully in the future, and he's going to bring up whether or not he wants to debate me on his channel. We'll see how that goes. Robert Whaley, thank you as always, my friend. Another 5 memberships. Thank you. Baller for $10. Thanks so much, man. Says, so glad to watch you at night after I'm off work. Congrats on going full time. Stop watching Destiny after January 6th debate to watch you. That debate is a classic. You should repost it soon. Thank you. Maybe I will. Maybe we'll go through it. I don't even think it was my best work. One of the things that's hard about a debate like that, it's going to be Friday, you're going to see this as well. When you allow your opponent to control the prompt, it automatically puts you on a back foot. So my way of getting offense in that debate with Destiny was, I will debate about, you have to understand why I don't give a shit what the definition of insurrection is. You could call it an insurrection, I don't give a shit. The problem is the double standard of what we do about it. So, for example, if you would say January 6th is an insurrection, and the Democrats attacking ICE here is an insurrection, and the Pussy Hat people was an insurrection, and the Kavanaugh thing was an insurrection, and May 30th, 2020, when Democrats attacked the White House was an insurrection, you could say all of that, and I'd be like, fine, I don't really think those were insurrections, but okay. And then once we say that, we're like, and therefore we need to throw the book at the January 6th people. And we need to go to the Section 3 of the 14th Amendment, which hasn't been used since like 1840. And we need to enforce it. That's the problem I have with the selective enforcement of it. But thank you, Baller. I'm glad you enjoyed that debate. I did it. So I did 4.5 hours of what Destiny wanted to talk about, which I don't give a shit, which is the definition of insurrection. And then when it came time to talk about the double standard, we did it for like 15 minutes and then he rage quit and blacklisted. With Ghost, thank you so much. Another $10 says, I don't know, Rob. I grew up in a cage and I turned out just fine, except for the night terrors and sleeping in a kennel. Thank you, With Ghost. Well, it didn't help. It didn't stymie your generosity, so I appreciate that. Nate for $20. Thanks, Nate. Says, I know this isn't what you were talking about right now, but I think you missed a big part of what Pearl's goal is. I think she wants dudes to just run through chicks. That way she wouldn't condemn female promiscuity. It could be the case. She's certainly black-pilled about something. I'll give her the benefit of the doubt and say that I think she probably has personally seen men that have been devastated by the situation and actually feels bad for them. But I think that because of that, she's also adapted the personality of many of these people that are jaded because of terrible, traumatic things they've gone through, and like losing custody battles or being wiped out financially in divorces or losing a wife or a girlfriend that they'd been with years and put all this time and effort in only to be cheated on. And I think she probably takes that to heart. And those people, a lot of times, if you're like, hey, man, get back on the horse and try to find another woman, will be like, F you, man. And I think that's where she's coming from. But I ultimately think that once we identify a problem, that we should talk about ways as a society and as individuals to try to increase our chances to solve that problem, as opposed to just saying, nope, I'm just giving descriptors. But thank you, Nate. Robert Whaley for $10 says, if the January 6ers were the guilty ones, why did bumbling Biden pardon January 6th unselected committee? It's an interesting question. Of course, the Democrats will say, well, he did it because Trump would be corrupt and go after them. Right. Nate, thank you so much. 5 months a member. Says, sorry for derailing. I'm busy and just saw your recap. No problem at all. Never have to apologize for sending me money, dude. Thank you. Occultology, thanks so much for 6 months membership. Says, for helping the disabled to dunking on them, Rob. Thank you. Yeah, honest to goodness, my former job, which I'm still technically employed at, but that's because I have like 6 months vacation or 6 weeks vacation to run through because I never took time off. It's hard to leave because I took care of adults with disabilities and I became really attached to many of them, and it is hard to leave, but hopefully I can still maintain a friendship with those people and still be in their lives. But yes, it will be fun to dunk on fools. Certainly, it's a great hobby that I have. Hector's, thanks so much for $10. Says, used to giving hundreds like Gerald, but my sales market dipped, so I'll have to do it when my business does well again. Cheers, Gerald. Hector, thank you so much, man. Never feel guilty. I totally understand that people are in different financial situations. You've been incredibly generous. I appreciate the $10. I appreciate you even if you're not donating money. But all animals are equal, but some are more equals than others. So get back out there in the sales department and send more money. Thank you so much, Hector. I appreciate it. Avarice, incredibly generous, again, for $20, says, hats off to you, Jest. Hats off, good sir. W. Rub, thank you so much. Gerald may be back in the lead. It's going to be tough. This tally's going to be crazy tonight. It's going to be tough. All right, here's the deal. We've gone 2 hours. So I think I'll save the South Africa stuff for tomorrow. I think that's what I'm going to do, because one of the things is sometimes I'll get in these like rants where I'll talk like 7 hours and then talk about all sorts of topics. And then the next day I'm like, oh, now I don't know what to talk about because I just ranted and raved. So I think tomorrow maybe we'll do a nice mashup show of things that have to do with race. So the South African refugees, this Shiloh woman that's getting these donations, the Carmelo Anthony stabbing thing. I haven't really talked about much of that. So maybe we'll see if I can't get my channel in trouble now that I, got some momentum, and talk about that stuff. Suffice it to say, the blatant hypocrisy and racism that's occurring is laughable. I happen to be watching Andrew do a TikTok invasion yesterday. You wouldn't believe this one chat that he got on this one TikTok channel. This dude was like threatening to skin Andrew, like to end him. And what was it over? South African refugees. And like part of this dude's argument was, you white people are being outbred, and so you're trying to import these South African white people, YT people they call them, which I think is funny for white. You're trying to import them, because you're being outbred. Yeah, dude, I'm sure bringing in these 50 people's really gonna bump up that white birth rate, you racist piece of garbage. But you could see in an issue like that, the absolute contempt that so many of these Democrats had. I'd said it for a long time. I said, if all of a sudden, like, for example, if a bunch of refugees from Cuba that, like, hated communism were coming in and being like, Donald Trump, thank you so much. You're a savior. Down with socialism, down with communism, conservatism all the way. The Democrats would be like, nah, dog, we don't want these refugees. They're out. That's right. Calling us YTs is a form of dehumanization. They aren't even subtle about it. Now, I will say, just to give you a little bit of my thoughts, I actually would be perfectly fine with not accepting South African refugees because I feel that the refugee system has been so belligerently taken advantage of that I would just end it, period. Nope, no more refugees. Sorry. I did say formerly, and I do stand by this, that you could make exceptions for small number of extreme cases. So maybe this would fit into that criteria. But just watching these people is hilarious. They had no problem with 12 million coming in under Biden. But oh boy, if you bring in 50 white ones, this is a huge problem. What was it, like some Episcopalian charity was like, we will no longer work with the U.S. government with refugees. Really? All it took was 50 white people? Is that funny? Their faux moralizing is so weak that all it ever takes is like 50 people of any given group to completely shatter their worldview. Like, remember when we sent 50 illegals to Martha's Vineyard? Remember that? And they couldn't handle it for more than 48 hours? One of the wealthiest communities in this country? Couldn't handle it. Could not handle it. That's all it took to prove that their whole ideology is bullshit. Remember that? They called in the National Guard to get their asses out of there, and then they acted like they were heroes for tolerating them for 48 hours. Remember that video? As the buses, the National Guard's taking these illegals away, they were yelling, Miyama, Miyama. Ah, I feel so good. I talked to an illegal. Those are the guys that mow my yard and clean my toilet. It's amazing. I gave them Fruit Loops. What a good person I am. Let me check something real quick here. Average household income is $80,000, roughly $80,000 in the United States. In 2022, it was $77,000. So we'll say $77,000. The median household income in my county is $54,000. So that's about $20,000 less. So in the county I live, median household income is $54,000. Right? We're poor. Most people are poor around here. It's okay. We're doing just fine. I will guarantee you that if a bus broke down of a football team with 50 kids on it, like young boys that eat a lot and, I'll guarantee we could take care of them in our poor county for more than 48 hours. Guaranteed. Yeah, they'd probably eat a lot. That's cool, man. Let's get the grill fired up. Let's get some burgers and hot dogs. We could give them fucking Fruit Loops and then call the authorities to send them on their fucking way. These ivory tower Democrats are real generous with your money. They're real generous with your communities, but not in their backyard. Oh, no. Just like, they're real generous bringing in refugees and illegals, as long as they fit the oppressed cultural Marxist class, but don't bring in those damn white people. That's racism. That's colonialism. So we'll talk about that tomorrow. Now, we've got a couple more minutes. Does anyone have anything specific that they would like to talk about? I'm going to get off here. I'm going to do a little research for some Crucible stuff coming up. Then I'm going to go to bed. Tomorrow, I have a rough day. I can't talk much about it, but suffice it to say, someone from my former line of work that is in a difficult health position, I'm going to go visit in the hospital. And because I do live in a rural area, it's about a 2-hour drive to that hospital for me. And due to the nature of the illness, there's a solid chance that I'll make that 2-hour drive and then be told that I can't visit. So but I think it's worth a shot. So, a slightly rough day coming up for me, at least in part. Any prayers that you all could offer would be appreciated. Yeah, I've talked about that a lot. So I'm having a great night tonight, so I'm not going to get too bummery on all of you. Let me ask you this. Has anyone, in the effort to help me in my transitioning, it's very expensive to transition. Very expensive. You know, I got my notebook here, trying to get ready for streams that are upcoming. This transition is very difficult. And so your financial support, deeply, deeply appreciated as I transition from my job to a new one. You could donate in the super chats way you have, or through PayPal at Robert Knorr, or the website Buy Me a Coffee at Rob Knorr. Has anyone joined? Let me check the phone. I believe the first person to give me money or subscribe through Buy Me a Coffee, or the next person to do it, will be the first person. So you could be a legend. When I'm the next Rush Limbaugh impersonator, because never going to be Rush, you could say, I was the first guy to ever donate to that guy on the website Buy Me a Coffee. That basically means I'm a celebrity. Awesome. Won't you feel great about yourself? I know I'll feel great from you. That's good. YouTuber. Thank you. Oh, there's my wife, Race Car Dad. If you missed it, yeah. My son, where'd it go? There we go. My son, he calls me Race Car Dad, and he calls himself Motorcycle Hank. But for some reason, he calls my wife, Courtney, School Bus Mom, which sounds like an insult. Like, you get to be a race car and he gets to be a motorcycle. But my son also thinks school buses are like the coolest. I kid you not, I've been like, hey, Hank, if we have to buy a new car, what kind of car would you want? Would you like a race car? Would you like a convertible, one that doesn't have a roof so you could feel the wind? What would you like? Every time we ask him, he says, a minivan. What kind of little kid's like, it'd be cool, a minivan. You tried to buy me a coffee, you couldn't find me. I think it's just Rob Knorr there. ROBNOERR. Claims that I have. Here, watch this. I believe that if you scan that, it should take you right to my Buy Me a Coffee thing. Someone could try that out and see. I don't know, I'm a boomer. That looks like some kind of crazy magic. When I went to this Pentecostal church, I kid you not, there was an older guy there that told me once that these QR codes were the mark of the beast. So I hope not, but let's get some more super chats. I know they're still coming in. Jarhead, thanks so much for $20. Says, smoking a cigar in the garage, getting my bass lures ready for the morning, and listening to Rob. Life is good. Thank you, man. Life is good. We are blessed. Thank you, man. And Zen's Forehead, great to hear from you. For $5 says, just robbed a homeless guy to super chat you. Buy Hank a new toy. I will. Tomorrow we have to buy him a helmet for his T-ball. And I told him, he's like, disinterested, what a helmet for? Which, that's a Chad thing. That's a man, right? Like, safety, that's stupid. What am I, some lady? I have to wear a helmet playing T-ball? Get out of town. And them's the rules, man. So he was uninterested in buying a helmet. But I was like, look, man, if we go to the store, we could also buy a toy. Now he's in. There we go. Lost Avarice. The champ for $5 says coffee winner number 1. Let's see it. Oh, how sweet it is. Thank you so much. Now perpetually, no one else could ever be number 1. Thank you so much, Avarice, $10 a month. One of the things I need to get good at is when someone donates to me on PayPal or on some other website like that, is to shout them out the next time that I stream or before the stream ends. However, let me ask you all this. Here's a question I have about this. A lot of people are using pseudonyms or screen names here on a YouTube chat, but then if they send you money on PayPal, you'll see their real name. So for example, let's assume that Zen's Forehead's real name is John Smith, right? He gives a $5 super chat. I say, thank you so much, Zen's Forehead. But then he sends a $5 PayPal and it says from John Smith. And I say, also, thanks to John Smith. He might not want people knowing that John Smith donated. Maybe it'll affect his job. So I'm always conflicted when that sort of thing occurs. Now, if someone says, hey, this is Zen Shapiro, I'll say, hey, thanks so much, Zen, for the $5 on PayPal as well. But it's a little ethical conundrum that I've gone through. I'll take this. Buy me a coffee. By the way, Avarice, did that little QR code work for you? Is that how you got there? Did anybody try that QR code? Even if you don't donate, if someone tries it just to see if it takes you to the page, I would appreciate it. You might not know John Smith is Zen Shapiro or Zen's forehead though. But what if the name's like Abdul Raphael Klingensmith? There might only be one of them, and they might not want their name. If your name's John Smith, then you probably don't care. Cash App's better than PayPal? Okay. Robert Whaley, thank you so much. $5 monthly supporter on Buy Me a Coffee. Thank you, man. All right, I'll write that down. Cash App's better than PayPal. Robert, unsung hero, by the way, and he used the QR code. Look at that. Robert, you're always incredibly generous too, man. I really appreciate it. Get Cash App. Got it. We're just starting here. Actually, I don't know. I have to talk to Andrew about dono.chat, sort of the payment service that he created that's 100%. So I got to talk if that's something that's eligible for other streamers. I know that he loves it and he put his own resources in it. So if that's something that's eligible for me, it may get a channel on there as well. QR code works. Ba-bam. You guys are killing it. I can't thank you guys enough. It's been an incredible night. Listen, it's. I used to be scared of spiders when I was growing up. Now I'm scared of failing my family. That's what keeps me up at night. What keeps me up at night is thinking that I'm not going to be a provider. And that's always what's kept me from leaving my job. I never made more than $20 an hour until like last year. I started off this line of work making $9.50 an hour. And the house I was working at initially was basically getting the shit beat out of me every day and cleaning up bodily fluids 5-6 times a day. It was tough work. And I was getting paid like $10 an hour. But I stuck with it because I'm lazy, or it's not that I'm lazy because it's hard work. It's more like I don't know. I don't upset the status quo in my own life easily. Remember that? Did you ever watch that movie Clerks? Dante from Clerks, he's like, yeah, my mom told me a story when I was like 4 years old. There was something sitting on the toilet. And she came into the bathroom and I pissed my pants. And Randall's like, what? He's like, I'm not the kind of person that moves things around just so I could shit comfortably. That's sometimes how I feel. But the big fear was I can't leave my guaranteed job on a risk. I can't be that guy. If I wasn't married, if I didn't have a kid, that's different. But I do. And so it's frightening for me even now. And so when I see the generosity of so many of you, just this week, just today alone, but it's been all week, it really makes me feel a lot better. It really does. It not only makes me feel a lot better that I'm going to be all right, but it makes me feel a lot better that there are actually people that support me. And so from the bottom of my heart, thank you. All right. I think that we'll call it a night here. And then we will, tomorrow, we'll jump in with some of these South African topics. We'll see what kind of research I'm going to come up with. One of the things that's nice, if I'm doing research for other sorts of debates for other people, like folks on the Crucible and what have, it also gives me stuff that I could talk about in my channel. So it doubles as research for myself as well. And I think that it's amazing the opportunity that Andrew's given me, the very nature of sort of being an employee for the Crucible, even without money, just working with them will help my channel significantly, not just from the audience, which is obviously I'm grateful for the double audience of the people that like the Crucible that will also like my channel and will come over here, but also because it affords me the opportunity to, in a competitive way, to prepare for debates, to actually do something that will also help my channel. So really appreciate that. We're going to try to raid someone. I think I'm learning. What a dangerous thing, learning. I say that as I had myself muted for 5 minutes earlier. Who is streaming? Does anyone have any recommendations on who to raid? I do not see anyone other than lefties. Mm. One second. Modern day debate? Yeah, if they're on. Am I worried that I'll overshadow Andrew? No. And Andrew's not worried about it either. Not that it won't happen, but it probably won't. But because I've said this for a long time. I did this as a hobby. Now it's going to be my line of work, which obviously I want to continue to be able to do this and support my family. Obviously, that's priority one for the channel. Previous to this, it was just a hobby. And for me, I truly believe in the message that I'm putting out. But if someone's more effective than me in putting out that message, I say go for it. I'm not going to be embittered at all. Great. Awesome. And Andrew is the same type of dude. If all of a sudden I have 20,000 people watching me live stream, you think for a second Andrew's going to be like, well, that sucks. He'd be like, great. That's awesome for Rob. That's awesome for someone who has very similar beliefs to me to be doing well. By the way, it'll also help me out. That's exactly how I feel about Andrew's success. That's exactly how I'd feel about anyone who shares a lot of my beliefs achieving success. I don't care if you start a channel tomorrow and all of a sudden within 2 weeks you're crushing me. That's awesome. I don't care at all. So no, I'm not worried about that in the least bit. Let's get to a couple more. Fredo Fonzarelli, thanks so much for being a member of 3 months. Says, we love you, Rob. Ecstatic about your transition. Me too. All right, looking for modern day debate. Let's see, how do I do this? Oh boy. Thought I remembered how to do this. Get a customization, redirect, search for videos. Oh, you guys. All right. You guys always have me rating people that have lefties on. That's okay, though. Am I going to try to tally up who the winner was? I'm not going to do it. Maybe I'll tally it up. It's got to be close. The winners of tonight, it's got to be Silent, who gifted 500, Kat, Jess Gerald, and Lost Avarice. It's got to be real close. Around 500 apiece. Did I miss Rachel Wilson? Thanks so much. Becoming a member for 2 months, said, let's go, crew. Thank you, Rachel. But you guys crushed it. Everyone that donated, thank you so much. We're going to raid Modern Day Debate. You could watch. Gerald won. He had $532. There you go. Again, Gerald won. Now, the original game when I thought I'd get far less money was the Field versus Gerald. The Field definitely beat Gerald, but Gerald's still the individual winner, as he usually is. And I assume in most pursuits that he has in real life, he's the individual winner. So thank you so much. King Gerald wins again. I win due to his generosity, but he is also the winner. So enjoy the raid of Modern Day Debate. I will see you tomorrow, probably around 10 p.m. Eastern time. I'm looking forward to it. We'll talk about some South African refugees. Thank you so much, everyone, from the bottom of my heart. We'll talk to you all soon. And as always, have a good one.